to give cheese a chance, where I encourage you to make cheese at home. Before we get deep into this video, I want to show you this cheese and ask you to guess, what cheese do you think I'm making here? I'll give you a clue. It's a cow's milk cheese that has already been aging for 50 days, and I will continue to age it for at least another 2 months. So please write your guess in the comments section below. I'm really curious as to what the guesses are going to be. And that's it for this cheese puzzle. Today's episode is different than my usual let's make a cheese together type of video. It's more of a heartwarming cheese-making adventure story. Let me tell you why. Many people have recently been emailing me to ask, what happened, Marianne? Have you stopped making cheese-making videos? Well, the answer is yes. I did push the pause button on making cheese videos. I needed to pause because honestly, recent world events have been getting me down and they continue to disturb me. It's just been hard to live life as usual. So when I was feeling this dark cloud over me, I got an email out of the blue from a person in Texas asking me questions about a Cambozola-style cheese recipe that I had posted on YouTube. Well, after some back and forth emails, we became very friendly, and she invited me to make cheese with her at her home in Texas. Seeing that I lived very far away in Canada, I thought she was just being polite by inviting me to her home. But then she sent me photos of her ranch, and she showed me her creamery, an entire room dedicated to cheese making. And the idea of visiting her in Texas became increasingly tempting. Could I actually go and make cheese in another country with a total stranger in her home? The idea of combining cheese making with an adventure grew inside my head, and it became what I now call my cheese escape, my cheesescape, or my curd holiday, my curd-oliday, whatever you want to call it. It was just what I needed, and I want to show you what happened. First, my husband and I boarded a plane and flew to Texas. We were going to a state we had never been to before, and we barely knew our hosts, nor did they know us. So there were some risks. What if, when we met, we didn't like each other? What if we didn't get along? All we could do was keep going in good faith. We landed in Texas and drove to their ranch east of Dallas to a small city called Athens. Finally, we met our hosts, Ginger and Dawn. We were even welcomed by our hosts' friends, Rosemary and Dawn, Carrie and Dolores and Joe. There was even an animal welcoming committee, including goats, chickens, geese, dogs, cats, a pheasant, and a particularly friendly llama named April that followed us everywhere. Eventually, it was time to make cheese. So Ginger and I sat down and created a plan to make as many cheeses as we could in the time we had together. We were going to be making these cheeses with raw milk. So bright and early, every day, we had to visit the animals for their milking. The goats knew the procedure of having their udders cleaned and then milked, each jumping in line to get milked one after the other. We took the milk into the creamery, bottled it, and cooled it. We knew we wanted to bring a cheese to our host's friend's house, the home of Dolores and Joe, who we would be seeing in a couple of days. So we decided to make a Middle Eastern cheese called Lebni by straining goat milk yogurt in fabric until it was very thick. This took a couple of days because you want the Lebni to be so thick that you can sculpt with it. Finally, when it was finished draining, we added salt to make sure it had a little bit more tang. When the Lebni was ready, we fancied it up by topping it with chunks of oranges and beets, sprinkling it with chopped pistachios, and drizzling it with honey. It became a scrumptious dip to pair along with Dolores's mead while we hung out on their deck in the forest. Then Ginger and I pivoted from making lebni, the Middle Eastern cheese, to making some French cheeses. We used gallons of raw cow's milk to make 2 wheels of brie. After inoculating the milk with bacterial culture, adding rennet, and cutting the curds, we put the curds into forms and let them drain overnight. Then we made 2 French cheeses using raw goat's milk, namely crottin and Valence-style French cheeses. Crottin are cute little rounds of goat cheese, and the Valence cheeses have such an interesting pyramidal form, and they would be ready to eat in just a few weeks, much sooner than the brie cheeses. Finally, we made 2 blue cheeses. Ginger isn't a big fan of blue cheese, like I am, but her husband Don is, so we made him 2 small rounds of blue. One he could eat young, in 2 months, and the other he could age longer to get a more pronounced blue flavor. Then it was time to calculate and distribute the salt to be applied to all of our cheeses. But first I want to introduce you to my host. This is Ginger.
Hi.
You've been such lovely hosts. We've enjoyed your Texan hospitality, so I thank you so very much.
You are so welcome.
So let's show them the cheeses that we've made.
Yes.
Okay, first we have a couple of blue cheeses over here, and it will take several weeks for them to turn blue. We have some brie cheeses. One's going to be a regular brie, and the other one is going to be a brie nouilles. We also made 2 goat milk cheeses. We have some small crottin, little pucks of a cheese, and beautiful triangular or pyramidal shaped Valence style cheeses. What we have to do next is salt these cheeses. Let's get busy doing that.
Okay.
So we have salted the 2 bries now, and we've added some black ash to one to make brie nouilles. Nuit is basically the French word for night. And you can see that the ash that we've added to this one is giving this black appearance, therefore the French word for night. That makes sense.
Yes.
And the next thing we want to do is salt our crottin. And we have a small amount of salt here. I'm just going to lay it into this tray, and we're going to pick up our crottin and just add touches of salt to each one. So let's do that and rub it in. The last thing that we want to salt are our 3 Valences. And just like this brie nouilles, they're going to be covered with salt and the black ash that we have over here. So I've measured out our salt and black ash, and we're going to use this beautiful strainer to distribute it over the surfaces of our cheese. This is the tallest crottin that we had. We just didn't have enough molds to do smaller pucks of cheese, so we made the tallest crottin ever, and we're going to salt it as well. Now that we have salted all these cheeses, I'm going to leave them in the care of Ginger to look after their maturation. So Ginger, these cheeses are now in your care. I hope you send me photos, which I will show to our viewers, of what they look like.
Yes, and we'll eat them and send pictures.
Yes, please send pictures, and I'm going to show you those pictures now. Here are the Valence cheeses with their beautiful pyramidal form and thin black line under the coat. And here are the tiny pucks of crottin cheeses as they matured. Our blue cheeses and bries took more time to mature, but they developed into mouth-watering bits of heaven as well. We had such a wonderful time on our Curd-oliday that I wanted to tell you that despite all the bad things that are happening in the world right now, there still is love to find out there. There are people with open arms and loving hearts, and sometimes you just have to take a risk and find them while they show you their warmth and you mirror it right back. And sometimes the conduit to making friends can be something as innocuous as cheese. It's just one of those things that can bring people together for so many reasons on so many occasions. So I suggest that you consider the idea of a cheesescape or a curd-oliday, a bonding where you make new friends through cheesemaking at home. With the right attitude, it can be relaxing, rewarding, bonding, and delicious. For Give Cheese a Chance, I'm Marianne. Happy cheesemaking!